Hi guys, Erin Booher here, educator for Paul Mitchell. I am here at my home salon in Springfield, Missouri. We're going to do a transformation today. We're going to do some balayage using dual purpose lightener. The star of the show though, I think is going to be the Demi, specifically the NB series. So stay tuned and keep watching to see what we do. All right, showing you what we're working with today. Here is our beautiful model's hair. We're wanting to bring some of those light pieces up, but decrease the contrast a little bit and make it a little bit more natural. So we're working with dual purpose lightener and 20 volume, 4 standard sections, and let's jump right in. So starting at the hairline, I am going to be back combing everything that I'm working on today. It's going to make the blend absolutely seamless. Going in with my dual purpose lightener, making sure I'm saturating everything and keeping off of those pre-lightened ends. We don't need to lighten those anymore. They're perfect right where they're at. Making sure I'm lifting up my section to get every last bit and making sure there's no surprises underneath. So I went ahead and finished that first section, but I want to show you guys how I'm working through this. So I'm taking about 1 inch to 1.5 inch section, splitting that in half, leaving that bottom part untouched, going ahead and back combing that top slice, and continuing with our balayage. Now I am working at a horizontal diagonal back. I know it's kind of hard to see in this video. I will zoom in here in a little bit. Saturating everything up until that back combed section. Making sure I'm working underneath as well, not leaving a single piece behind, and making sure there's no inconsistent spots. After I finish with that blend, I go ahead and secure my foil. I'm always going to add more product on top of that foil to ensure saturation and get the best and most consistent lift that I can. So moving into our front sections, just like in the back, I'm going to be placing my first foil right on the hairline. And what that's going to do is make sure if she's wearing her hair up or as it's laying over her shoulders, she's going to see that brightness. She's not going to feel like she has any like black holes in her hair where she wishes she saw a little bit of that natural sun-kissed look. So zooming in a little bit, back combing this piece, making sure we're saturating. You can really see how I'm working here. These videos are in double time, so know that I do take my time on these, as should you. Make sure everything's nice and blended out. You see my saturation, like there's no doubt about it. It looks completely white on that hair, so that's going to be a good sign of saturation. Adding more on the foil and then securing that foil in. So you can see here, I kind of split this panel in half and I'm working on the second half now. I wanted to give myself a little bit more control over those shorter pieces and that finer hairline. So I back combed it just a little bit. This piece is fine enough where I can put it directly into a foil and place my product. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the last few sections of this balayage, let it process until it about matches her pre-lightened ends that she came in with, and then on to our color melt. So we're going to be working on damp hair today, and I'm going to go ahead and mix up our Demi formulas. Of course, we're going to be working with our NBs, but I am going to intermix a little bit of 1N, about 0.3, 0.4 ounces of 1N to a whole ounce of 4NB. Of course, we're going to mix that 1-to-1 ratio with our 7 volume processing liquid. Second formula is going to be straight 7NB. So starting out, I am going to be working with 3 sections this time, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. We're going to start by outlining that back section with our first formula, the 4NB, with just a little 1N for depth. And as I outline that, I'm just going to start where the hair lies. So I'm going to pick up my first section right on top as soon as I'm done outlining our first section. This is going to give me a little bit of control as I'm working through the hair. I'm able to place my product, then gently lay it over the top of her head. These first few sections, I'm not going to bring that depth down too far. I want to make sure that we have those nice ribbony blonde pieces laying right on top. So as I'm working, I'm blending as I go, kind of keeping in mind where I see that dart going to be laying on her hair, using my pointer and middle finger to blend down as I go, as well as my thumb with my left hand. I'm going to use that to make sure that I'm getting all that good saturation. So if you catched it, I tapped in that base and then I split that one section in half as it's getting wider as I'm working down the head. That's going to give me a little bit more control, more palm-sized pieces of hair to be working with. So I'm going to do a couple more sections just like these, then I'm going to jump ahead right here. about midway down the head, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to create a little bit more depth and contrast by bringing that first formula down a little bit further. And I kind of pointed there where I plan to bring it down. What that's going to do is create contrast. So as those top pieces that we didn't bring that dark down quite as much, they're going to be able to lay over this midsection of hair where the dark does come down, that depth comes down a little bit further, create contrast, create these beautiful ribbons of blonde. So as I get closer to the nape, I skipped ahead a little bit again to show you I'm going to start bringing that depth up a little bit again, just like in those first few sections. That way, when it lays over her shoulders, kind of like we talked about before, she definitely sees those blonde pieces peeking through. If she wears her hair up, she's not going to feel too dark underneath. And again, when we're done with each section, we can simply just lay it back over the top of her head, make sure it's staying out of her face. We don't want to blind her or anything, but that product will keep it all in place. And you can even see where your sections are because of the product. You can kind of see each individual line. So it's going to be easy to go back through and work through. So grabbing our second formula now, that's our 7NB, we're going to take the hair, again, right where it lies and start working it into the ends. I'm going to blend with my pointer and middle finger right in the middle, and I'm going to place one foil just to keep everything clean and tidy. So like I said, it's easy for me to find my next piece because it's already all sectioned out for me with that product. Grabbing my second formula, that's 7NB, to blend it in. You can see I'm kind of using my brush as a comb, pushing it back into the opposite direction, and then really blending it through. I like using an actual comb to give another layer of blend and just consistency and saturation to everything. And always keeping that towel on hand, no matter what you're doing, especially for something like a color melt. And right here, you'll notice with my left hand, I'm able to use my thumb as I'm working down the hair with my brush to really blend everything out, make sure every single hair is perfectly saturated. All right, moving right along, I went ahead and finished that back section. Beautiful, nice and shiny. And now we're gonna move on to the front. And just like in the back, we're gonna start right at the top with our first formula, that 4NB and 1N. We're going to place the dark where we want to see it. I'm a super visual person, so I like to really consider, okay, where's this hair laying and how do I want that depth to be presented? And really, what guest doesn't want that beautiful, bright face framing highlights right around the face? So in order to achieve that and to get that contrast and that pop, I'm going to make sure that the pieces right behind that are a little darker. So I'm going to pull that down a little bit more. But when I pull these pieces that live right around the face, like I'm doing right here, I'm not going to pull that dark down as much. I'm going to let that blonde really live there and be the star of the show. Even here, you can see the difference from those face framing blonde pieces to here. I'm pulling that dark down quite a bit more. And these first pieces, gotta wipe the hands off, very important, especially working with that blonde. These front pieces, just tapping it into the base just a little bit. You know, as stylists, I think it's really important to remember we do get into our day-to-day habits and routines, and that something like this, a color melt, is going to differ greatly in technique than something like a root tap or a root smudge. We're going to be really getting in and customizing this color. So you can tell as I'm working, I'm being very mindful of where I'm placing that dark and where it's going to live. That's why I love the Demi so much. You're able to really see exactly where it's going to live on the hair. With my brush, I'm kind of showing you, I'm giving this beautiful diagonal back angle to the blonde that's going to give a really natural sun-kissed and face framing effect. So as you can see, I jumped right back into our second formula, that 7NB, blending it up through those lightened ends and making sure that our first formula and our second formula are seamlessly blending together, combing it through and using my fingers to blend as well as a comb. I'm going to push that back into our previous section, into the back, just to keep everything tidy, make sure she doesn't have any staining on her ears or around her face. Moving right up, I am going to put a foil under this one just to make sure everything's nice and separated and clean. All right, I'm going to finish up the remaining sections of hair. We're going to let this beauty process for the full 20 minutes. And then boom, here is a sneak peek. So shiny. The blend is seamless, and I love those ribbons of blonde. But before I show you the official end results, let's go ahead and add some nice, soft, kind of beachy waves throughout her hair. Of course, using my favorite smoothing iron of all time, Paul Mitchell Neuro Smoothing Iron. All right, going to do a quick review of the before, how she came in today. And then drum roll, please. Boom, there's the after. I am obsessed with this look. It's a seamless color melt over the top of a fresh balayage using none other than the Demi NB series. I'm loving the ribbons of contrast and that depth and brightness that we get. I'm obsessed with it. Let me know what you guys think. Love you, bye.